Hey, Triple P Nation, welcome back to the podcast where this week we're going to explore the tools, tactics, and strategies to help you up-level your life and your business. Because the mission of this podcast is to help entrepreneurs and professionals just like you to learn to grow in the four key areas of life, which are mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. We've been spending a lot of time lately on the business side, on the entrepreneurial side. It just feels like the right time to do it. Just completed our three-part series on the headwinds facing entrepreneurs in the next 12 to 18 months. The feedback has been fantastic, a lot of great questions. And I'm going to do a podcast where I'm going to put those questions together, answer those for you because I told you I would. And also for the great response, so many of you who've reached out for the special promotion that we did, which is $1,000 is what it's worth. Essentially, it's my $500 proprietary business audit, in which if you email me, Dr. J at Triple P Life, and put in the subject line, business audit, I will send it to you, and then you send it back to me, and then I'll send you my link, and then we'll schedule a call together. Also worth $500, so there was the $1,000. That's my gift to you, so I can help you on your entrepreneurial journey, no matter where you are. If you're starting new in business, if you've been in business, if you're on the way out of business, let me give you my wisdom of over 35 years, just started my 19th company. Any way that I can help you, any way, shape, or form, I'm here to serve. That's what the show is about. So Dr. J at Triple P Life, you could still send me an email request to get the business audit, and I'll send it to you, and we'll set up that consultation. So again, I want to thank everyone who listened to that series for your emails, for your comments, and we'll be doing something like that again here in the future. Now, this week kind of is also part of the entrepreneurial mindset because it's how do you handle crises? And we all know that life is always full of crises. Crises occur oftentimes when we least expect it. Crises can show up in so many different ways, so many variety of ways in life and business. So I'm going to explain to you the 7 areas in which you need to pay attention to and begin to create a plan to how to deal with crisis, and then 5 steps to how to overcome crisis and to step up as a leader so that the crisis doesn't turn from a 3-alarm fire to a 5-alarm fire and just totally destroy every aspect of your life and business, because that's not an outcome we want. So we're going to get into that here in just a moment. Before we do, of course, we've got our weekly success snack, which is my 3 rules for happiness. I was recently on a podcast, Mindy's podcast, and it was a real joy to be on. And she asked me a question. She said, Dr. J, she said, what are your 3 rules for a happy life? And I thought for a moment and I said, okay, here's the 3. Number 1 is, guys, we need to live in the service of others. I have found personally, when we are serving someone, when we're serving something bigger than ourselves, it makes us not only step up to our greatness, it challenges us to grow, but it also provides incredible feedback and nourishment to our own selves, our own well-being, because we're helping someone achieve certain goals, to accomplish a certain outcome, and that feels good when they do so. So the more you can serve others, the more fulfilling your life is. Number 2, I said, is always pursue your passions and your dreams. One of the things I have recognized as we get older, we stop dreaming. In fact, dreaming is one of the 8 success habits in my book, Change Your Mind, Change Your Destiny. And you're saying dreaming is a habit? Yeah, it really is. It's a success habit because it allows us to open our minds to what's possible. It's a great question to ask yourself each and every day or each year. What's possible next year in my life? What's something that I don't necessarily think, or never thought or dreamt of in my life, but you know what? If I put the right intention, focus, and I get the right people around me, I can make it happen and radically change my life for the better. So always pursuing your passions, dreaming as regular as you can, because that is what creates the energy and the enthusiasm to grasp life and to really live it to its fullest. And then the third one is if you could take 1 and 2, live in service of others and pursue your passion, and do that and find someone to pay you for it, well, now you got yourself an absolute incredible career in which that, yeah, it's quote unquote work, but it never feels like work because it's stuff you love to do. And even during the tough days and things that are not sexy about what it is that you love, it still never seems like work. And that's really the key for me, that I get to do this for you guys. I get to get paid for it. I get to coach. I get to consult. I get to write. I get to speak. And I get to do it, and people pay me well for it. And I really love doing it. So I'm very grateful for that. So the 3 rules for a happier life: live in the service of others, pursue your passions and dreams, and do what you love, and find someone else to pay you for it. Okay, let's get into the topic for this week: how to handle a crisis like a pro. You see, guys, I've learned early in my career that owning my role in every aspect of my business was the key that began to transform my life and my business. You've heard me say and tell the story, right? I was an absolute train wreck when I first got in business in 1993. I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about leadership. I knew nothing about reading spreadsheets and financials and clarifying a vision and building a team and all those things, right? Everything that we know that's necessary to be successful in business. And it took that one fateful call that changed my life when my coach said to me, well, he wasn't my coach at that time. He was after he said this. He said, Jay, your business and your life is waiting for a leader to show up, and it's not you. And at that moment, I realized that everything that was going wrong, that I perceived that was going wrong in my life, I was at the center. And so at that moment, I said, you know what? I am contributing, or at the very least, the key factor in all these things that I'm complaining about. So I owned it. So the key here for a leader to be successful long and short term is to owning your role for whatever is happening in your life, good and bad. It's just a responsible thing, and it's the most empowering thing that you can do. You see, because when you act like a victim, which I was doing, I was blaming everything and everyone else around me for all the things that were happening. And because I kept doing that, the solutions never appeared, because there are no solutions in victimization. There's only more victimization. And victimization is a mindset, a negative mindset of disempowerment. In other words, I'm giving you or giving away my authority to change anything because I'm giving the power to everyone else and everything outside of me. It's why this victim mentality that's going on in our country is one of the most devastating to our youth, which is one of the reasons I feel there's been such an exorbitant explosion in depression and anxiety, because people don't feel like they have the ability to change their circumstances, because they're told by the government that it's this person, it's that group, it's this socioeconomic group, it's everyone around you that has resulted in your position in life. And that's a flat out lie by corrupt, morally bankrupt human beings. And I'm going to say it as flat as I can. These people have no position to be in leadership. They're evil and morally destructive. But the key, if we start to accept responsibility, I don't care who you are, what stage of life you are, accept the responsibility for the role that you have taken, the actions that you've put in place, the thoughts that you had, the energy that you've created in your business and your life, you then regain your authority and give yourself the empowerment to change the outcomes that is preventing you from moving your life into a better direction. So having a victim mentality, guys, significantly is going to hinder your success in any way. So I want you to step back here just a second and ask yourself this question: where am I giving up my authority? Where am I blaming others? Have I been blaming my spouse for my lack of happiness? Have I been blaming my boss for my lack of advancement, or my coworkers, or my employees for the lack of growth in my business? Am I blaming my customers because they don't know what the hell, how great my products and services is? I can't believe they're not purchasing more. I can't believe I just can't get well. I can't get healthy. Every time I try to lose weight, I just don't seem to have any success. I want you to note where you're giving away your authority, where you're taking a victim's mindset. And then what I want you to do is just note, if it's 1, 2, or 3, write them down. Because If we can help you change these three things, two things, one thing, whatever it might be, your life is going to radically change for the better. Your joy and happiness is going to elevate exponentially. Your attraction levels to people around you and for prosperity. You'll open the floodgates and begin to see changes in your life you could have never imagined just by stop playing the victim game and owning your position. You see, the thing is that when we play the victim, this mindset has such negative effects on your success. And here's a few that I want you to make note of. Number one, when we play the victim, there's no accountability, right? That mentality often results in us avoiding taking any responsibility. And the lack of accountability prevents us from learning from our mistakes. You see, again, when we give it to other people, we don't recognize the choices that we made, the thoughts that we had, the actions we did or didn't take, and how it resulted in the position that we're currently in. But once you accept it, you see the missteps and perhaps what you could do differently next time. Another thing a victim's mentality will do, it's going to reduce your motivation. See, believing that you have no control over your circumstances is going to lead to a sense of helplessness. And it's definitely going to reduce your motivation. You ever have those mornings or weeks or months where you just don't want to get out of bed? Perhaps it's because you've given up your power. You're acting like a victim. And then this lack of effort and perseverance is crucial because there's no way you're going to be able to achieve anything for any sustained success. Now, the third thing is a victim mentality has a really negative outlook on life and their own future because it fosters this negative outlook as far as what you can accomplish, what you can't accomplish. It creates more of a defeatist attitude. And this pessimism will discourage you from setting any ambitious goals or getting out of your comfort zone or taking some risk, which we know, right, is really key when it comes to creating more success into your life. Now, another one is when we play the victim role, it really sets us up to have poor relationships because we're always blaming someone else. Seeing oneself as the victim, blaming them, how bad they are, what a terrible attitude, how lazy, whatever it might be. And then it strains our relationship with our friends and our families and our colleagues, coworkers, whatever. And here's the fact. Successful people don't do that. They don't. They own it. Successful people rely on strong supportive relationships. In victim mentality, you're not going to get that. And with a victim mentality, you're going to get a victim mentality social network. More complainers, more blamers, more whiners. Now, another one, when you are acting like a victim, is that you just don't develop your problem-solving skills. So people with that mentality focus more on the problem rather than finding the solution. And one of the things I did to build my cultures in my businesses was change it from the culture to a problem-solving culture, right? A solution-based culture. What does that mean? Well, when there was an issue within the business, we certainly wanted to address it, and it had to go up the chain in which it needed to be addressed. Now, if it was critical, it came to the top pretty quickly. If it's something that can be dealt with and handled amongst managers and people in those key positions, then it was done so. However, what the importance here is that if you were going to bring a problem to a manager or to myself, you had to also bring two potential solutions. I talked about it one of my success snacks a few weeks ago, the 1-2-1, right? What's the objective? Bring me two solutions. And which one are you going to do? What actions you're going to take? Tell me the one action you're going to take. So now everyone comes with the mindset, okay, yes, there might be an issue here, but I have to figure out a way to get this solved. And I have to come up with a couple different ways. It does a couple things. Again, people are thinking in solution mindset, but also thinks, is it really that bad? Is this something I really want to invest time in? Now, another one is stagnation when we're victims, right? We're just not going to grow. We get stuck in our stuff. Our belief systems, our negative mindset just remains in a state of stuckness. And as I mentioned, another is there's no question these people have significant mental health issues because they have this persistent feeling of helplessness. And it does not contribute to any positive measure as far as reducing anxiety and depression, which of course is going to impede your ability to experience joy and happiness in your life. And then finally, the last one is you just feel totally out of control. Success often requires really a proactive approach and a belief in your ability to influence certain outcomes. As a victim and as with a victim mentality, this undermines this belief. Then that's going to lead you to feeling like you missed opportunities and that you failed to capitalize on certain opportunities and or strengths. So I think I've laid out a pretty strong argument that there's no value nor benefit in being a victim. A victim mentality can create such a self-fulfilling prophecy where individuals feel powerless to be able to change any circumstance, lead to any behavioral changes or attitudes that will significantly hinder their chances to succeed. So if, as this show is about empowering your dreams, igniting passion, accelerating prosperity, that does not align with victimization. So overcoming this mentality involves cultivating a growth mindset. That's why I talk about these concepts. It's taking responsibility for your actions and focusing on proactive problems and personal development, and surround yourself with the right people who think differently, who can lift you and elevate you up. Now, at the same time, guys, we also need to recognize that things do happen, right? Things happen that are outside our control, or like what we all say, shit happens. You guys remember the pandemic of 2020? The thing is that there's going to be times where we're going to have to deal with external events that have had little to nothing to do with any of the choices or decisions that we've made. In fact, we accept no blame whatsoever. And the pandemic is a great example of that. 9/11 would have been another great example of that. So here are 7 areas where crisis can happen. It can happen in your health or health of someone you know, close in your family. It can be involved in an accident. Your life can change instantly. Another one, which is becoming, unfortunately, far too common and quite devastating for businesses, particularly small businesses, because the margins are so small, is technology and cyber warfare. Businesses are getting hit with ransomware, forced to pay hundreds, if not millions of dollars in ransomware, and they just don't have the revenue to do so, causing the business to crash. Which I would suggest, if you are in business, is to have ransomware insurance. You can purchase that. Now, I'm not going to get into details. You have to check with your agent, find out what works for you, limits, what does it cover, what doesn't it cover. But it does create a little bit of peace of mind. We have this in our businesses, and I would strongly recommend, if you do not, is to give yourself a little peace of mind. It's worth the few $500 a year, whatever it might be. Now, another area where crises can happen is social unrest. You remember the riots just a couple of years ago, where businesses were being destroyed and looting and burning and so on and so forth. Again, outside your control. And of course, another is natural disasters. Tornadoes come through in the Midwest, or hurricanes, whatever. Are you covered? There's also personal attacks on your character, where they go on social media and they're just ranting about your business or your service, or they didn't like you, or they didn't like one of your employees for whatever reason, and they go in and they write a nasty review, and that is really difficult to overcome. There's ways of doing so, but it's difficult to overcome. The 6th way is on the employee side, an ex-employee who's seeking revenge because they felt like they were treated unfairly or they were terminated improperly, whatever the case may be. And of course, number 7 is just personal. Things can happen to us and not be prepared for it. Now, the reason I'm sharing these areas of potential crisis with you is not to cause any depression or anxiety for you, or to cause you to walk around feeling paranoid, but rather it's to help you become more vigilant. So you can be aware and have a plan in the event any of these events do happen, so you become more level-headed and prepared. The things that catch us off guard are the things that tend to rattle us the most. Let me repeat that, because it's really true. The things that we're not ready for that catch us off guard are the things that really tend to rattle our cage. Because it's just that we could never imagine that happening, and we get stunned and shocked, and we're just, it's like in the boxing ring, you get hit with a right cross, you don't know if you're coming or going, let alone trying to make decisions. It's why our special forces guys train incessantly for every imaginable scenario so that when they do occur, it's not like it's the first time they had to deal with the issue and then they can react accordingly and not be paralyzed like, okay, what do we do now? But even the special forces will tell you they can't plan for every imaginable outcome. But the more they prep, the more they plan, the better able they're better able to handle those unforeseen events. So, what do you do then? Well, according to the special force guys, how you respond initially is ultimately going to determine in their field of work, right, is whether you be killed or survived. If you panic or if you remain calm in the face of adversity, especially against overwhelming odds, is going to determine your outcome. If you fail to remain calm, or worse, you panic and just lose your shit in the field of battle, you're going to die. And that's a harsh reality, but it's true. Now, fortunately, for most cases we face in life and in business, death is usually not an outcome. However, in business, when your reputation is on the line or your financial future is at stake, it can feel like a life or death situation. And the thing is, crises have different lifespans. Some last hours, while others can last a day, a week, a month, or unfortunately longer. Hopefully not, but it can. And the thing is, what we hate the most is that uncertainty. And as humans, we loathe uncertainty. It's what keeps us up at night and feeds our fears and that negative self-talk and creates the anxiety that makes the situation even worse. Because here's reality. The more anxious we are feeling, it triggers and inhibits our prefrontal cortex in our brain, which is the logic center. So the more anxiousness we are feeling, the more panic, it inhibits our ability to think clearly through the situation. So not only is remaining calm good for the situation, but remaining calm is essential to coming up with good strategies to overcome the crisis. Now, when crises do occur, and they are going to occur if they haven't already, your responsibility as a leader, and I'm speaking to all of you, Triple P Nation, it increases to epic proportions, right? Your responsibility increases to epic proportions. And the reason? Well, it's simple. Everyone is looking to you for the answers and the solutions. Now, don't make this mistake of going dark or getting quiet. The reason some leaders take this tactic is because they lack the answers or they feel like they don't have the solutions at the time. And therefore, they think, well, it's best not to say anything than to show that I don't have the answers. And I don't want to look weak or vulnerable. It's not the way to go. I really want you to emphasize and to remember that. Look, it's okay. It's okay in the face of adversity and crisis to say to your team, look, I don't know, man. I just don't have the answers at this time. But together, if we remain calm, we'll figure this out. But we have to remain calm and steady so we're able to think clearly and rationally. This is perfectly acceptable. You don't need to have every answer right off the bat. Even, and I should say often, it's best to step back and analyze the situation, gather as much data and information as possible, and then assess the risk analysis. And then the harsh reality is how we react will either shorten or extend the crisis, and therefore all the pain associated with it. So our reaction in the crisis mode will either extend the pain and the potential fallout, as opposed to if we remain calm, level-headed, and come up with simple strategies to help us overcome. Now, one of the great examples of this, I mentioned it before, was 9/11, when the trade towers were attacked in New York City, and there was nothing but absolute chaos going around. I remember reading Rudy Giuliani's book because I like to study leadership, and they asked him, you were lauded for your leadership in probably, a crisis that was a 12 out of 10. How did you handle it and remain so calm? And he said, inside, I was just screaming. I was terrified, but I knew everyone else was. And so therefore, if I didn't remain calm, I was going to take a really bad situation and make it even worse. Someone had to be able to remain calm. He goes, I thought I was going to die because he was down at the World Trade Center area and buildings were falling. People were jumping out of buildings. It was hectic. It was chaotic. Obviously, it was tragic. And he said, the thing that got us through is we remained calm. And as I remained calm, the other leaders around me stepped up. They remained calm. And together, we were able to start to put an action plan together to save lives. Because right then and there, it was about saving lives and minimizing the death. So as I said, it's how we react that either shortens or extends the crisis. Now, I want to talk about 5 steps that will either extend or decrease the lifespan of a crisis. So number 1 is, what strategies are available for you to help deal with this crisis? And they don't have to be complex. In fact, less complex is better, right? Assigning to the appropriate people the things necessary, to assess the damage, the fallout, and to provide some solutions that you can come together and decide which of those solutions is the most appropriate way to go. Of course, number 2, right? I've mentioned it here multiple times. You got to get calm. You got to stay calm. Number 3 is, don't over exaggerate the crisis. What does that mean? Well, guys, if it's a level 4 crisis, but we're turning it into a 9, we're exacerbating the problem, and we're making something that we could get through pretty quickly into an absolute disaster. And then 4 is just the opposite. Don't downplay a crisis. Don't make a 9 into a 4. The building's on fire. All your documents are going up in flames. Like, hey, everybody stay calm. Let's get some marshmallows. We'll have some marshmallows. We'll call the fire department later. Okay, so we got to make sure we don't downplay a severe crisis into a minimal crisis. And number 5 is, it's your ability to consider all the options. In other words, see the steps ahead of you before they even become reality. Be able to see 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of you to solve this problem. That's what a great thinker is. That's what a great leader does. He's able to see the entire playing field, see where all the pieces go, and how each one is going to play and solve this crisis. It's not the responsibility of the leader to do all the action and solve the problem. It's to coalesce, to bring the team together, come together with and by the way, this is for a family as well too. If there's a crisis at home, bring the family together, utilize resource, utilize talents, utilize your neighbors. How can we come together and get through this crisis together? And then finally, it's important never to assign blame, especially to start with, because this is only going to create more angst and division amongst your group. Now, once the crisis is diminished, you got it under control or it's resolved, then it's time to step back, to assess, and to identify, was there a thing or someone that was at the core that resulted in the crisis? Remember, blame cannot always be assigned. Sometimes shit happens. Your reaction will either shorten or extend the crisis, sometimes resulting in a catastrophe. So that's today's podcast. I thought this was important coming off the entrepreneurial series because this is all about leadership. As you've heard me say millions of times, businesses rise and fall on leadership. If you are in a growth state as a leader, or your leadership team is growing, your business is going to grow. If you're stuck emotionally, if you're stagnant strategically, individually or collectively, your business is going to reflect that. It's just a reality, right? Businesses follow people. That means our energy, our vibration, our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors, net effect is what impacts the business and the success of the business, especially the smaller businesses. And remember, small business is revenue from $1 to $40 million. So I hope you found today really beneficial. I hope you found the fact that you can get through it. Don't be a victim. There's no value in it. It's destroying individuals. It's destroying parts of our culture. It's destroying parts of our economy. We have to remove ourselves from this. We need great leaders to step up and call this crap out, because there's no value, there's no benefit. It only creates more of what we don't want. So guys, as I mentioned, I'm going to do a Q&A from the 3-part series coming up here shortly, so look out for that. If you sent me in a question, thank you. Look out for your question, and looking forward to doing that one here shortly. So as we close, you be you. Just be the best you. And I promise you will always empower your dreams, ignite your passion, and accelerate your prosperity. Until next time, guys, be well.